guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between, and before I get started, at the end of the video, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week, so in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week for a chance to be featured. Now, I do have a pretty big haul this week with 16 comics, so we're going to jump in. Before I jump in, be sure to give this video a like, because it really does help the channel. Now, number 16 for me is Fantastic Four First Steps issue 1. This is a one-shot that Marvel released for the Fantastic Four movie coming out, and it's very much your bare bones first steps of Fantastic Four. If you've never heard of these heroes before, go pick it up. It's a good way to kind of learn who these characters are. But I think most people know the basics of the Fantastic Four, so I really wish it dug a little deeper. It just felt very fillerish just to have something connected to the movie. So giving that one 2 stars, and that is number 16. Moving on to number 15, which is It's Jeff. Infinity Paws issue 1, which Jeff has been getting a lot of love. I do like Jeff a lot, but honestly, I do think maybe it's a little bit overboard now. There's like a Jeff series every week. For me, the best Jeff series are the Kelly Thompson issues, because I feel like she really balances that humor and silent comic really well, that I just felt like this issue was kind of missing. And again, it is because we've just been getting so much Jeff, it kind of feels like Jeff overload. But it's still cute if you want to see the pets of the Marvel Universe. I just don't know if it's fully necessary. So giving that one 2.5 stars, and that is number 15. Moving on to number 14, which is Absolute Superman issue 9. Nothing wrong with this issue, I just felt like I wanted more from the character beats. Like, I believe they exist. You know, we get a little bit with Jimmy and Clark. We get a bit with Lois and Ra's al Ghul. I probably like the Lois Ra's al Ghul moments the most, but the rest of it is action-filled. You don't get a lot from Lois and Clark in particular, which honestly is the thing I like the most about this series. So I just felt like it was a little slower, definitely delved more into the sci-fi elements of the series that I don't particularly attach myself to as much. So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 14. Moving on to number 13, which is the UnChosen issue 1. This is a new David Marquez book, which he's been promoting for a while. He had it on Zestworld, and I love seeing an artist delve into writing as well. And something I really noticed with this in particular that I think only an artist can really do is how much he delves into the world building aspect. Now, for me as a reader, I'm not as big on the world building. I'm more in the vein of character work. But what I liked about the art here is a lot of the character work was done through facial expressions. I really feel like I learned a lot about the character just because of the acting throughout the issue. I'll see if I get the next issue, but I do feel like this is obviously a bit more of an art-driven book than a character-driven book. So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 13. Moving on to number 12, which is Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion issue 2. This is a tough one. It really depends on how much you love the Ultimate Universe. For me, I really like Ultimate Spider-Man. I obviously like Miles, but I haven't really been reading any of the other titles. I haven't really liked Black Panther that much. I didn't like X-Men. I'm one of the few that don't like the Ultimates, so this issue in particular is very Ultimates heavy, which makes sense because Camp is writing it and he writes the Ultimates. So if you are a fan of the Ultimates, this is just an issue of the Ultimates. You'll enjoy it. But as someone who wants something a little bigger from the Ultimate Universe and something a little bigger from Miles, it's just him kind of chasing his kid sister around, and I just don't feel like there's that oomph that's been promised over the years of Miles Morales returning to the Ultimate Universe. So overall, giving that one 3 stars. It was fine, just didn't blow me away. All right, moving on to number 11, which is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, the sequel. I liked the first volume. I read it in trade, but this kind of goes back to the Ultimates situation and the UnChosen situation, where there's elements that are just personally not for me. I don't usually love animal stories. Feral is honestly one of those series where I'm so shocked of how much I like that book, because I usually don't love series like that. And that's what this issue is and what this series is. If you love animal stories like Lion King or Zootopia, you'll enjoy this flair here. If you like shows like Dexter, you're gonna really enjoy this one. I like the mystery with this one in particular. The whole first volume is about this bear who's a serial killer, very Dexter, and now we get a POV from a new character of her brother disappearing. And I thought it was interesting. I just don't know if it gave me enough to be like, I need to read issue to, or gave me enough to say this warrants a sequel besides that the first volume was popular. So overall, giving that one 3 stars. I think it really depends on what type of stories you like. That is number 11. Moving on to number 10, which is Wolverine and Kitty Pryde issue 4. I love this series. I do think it kind of jumped the shark in some moments here. They were really trying to bite a lot in this, like they're switching bodies and Sentinels and so much going on there, but I still had a fun time with it. I liked Kitty talking to the Sentinel girl who, you know, maybe hopefully learns a little bit more about mutants now that she's switched bodies with Kitty, but probably not. And that's really the whole issue. It really is just this action-y issue between these two girls. And I liked it. I just thought it was a lot all at the same time as well. So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is the Slashers Apprentice issue 3. If you like slasher stories, I think you'll enjoy this one. I like the commentary on more modern stories in the modern world compared to maybe your 70s or 80s slasher. The kid's not going to day camp anymore, or the football player is not going to be the star of the story. It's going to be the influencer who's in drama club. So I like those parts. I'm very curious to see when the shoe's gonna drop, because there's this feeling of there's something a little bit bigger here, and that's something I'm curious to see as the issues go on, or is she just gonna be the Slasher's Apprentice? So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 9, I believe. Yes, and now we're moving on to number 8, which is Green Lantern Corps issue 6, a book I was actually going to drop, but then this whole entire crossover is happening, so I was like, okay, I probably should see through the crossover. And I like this issue. I thought this did better with character work, with Jessica in particular, who I really like, her dealing with her origins of wanting to hide away. And so I thought that was really cool. And I like the build up to kind of this bigger story and this bigger crossover. And I like how much Green Lantern feels connected, and it kind of feels like a bigger story. It reminds me a lot of those Jeff Johns days. So giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Radiant Black, issue 35. This was an interesting issue to close out the arc, where we get to see those characters from that big A and B storylines where they had like multiple versions of timelines. That's playing a part here where I feel a little torn on. I think it's cool that we're bringing that story back, but that was also the part where Radiant Black was kind of losing me a little. So I hope it doesn't lean in too heavily, but I like the character moments that are attached to it, like our main character's mom, I think is really cool. Thought the action was interesting. I'm curious to see what it's gonna do for the mythos. It's a point A to point B issue in that way. I think it's more of a to be determined story to see where this is gonna take us. But as a regular issue, I think it was a pretty well balanced issue. So giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number, I believe that was number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Trinity, Daughter of Wonder Woman, issue 2. I really liked the ending of this book, actually, because the whole beginning is kind of this whimsical story of one of the Wonder Girls hanging out with Jason Todd, and they're kind of flirting with each other. And for me, it was a little bit too whimsical. It's like, oh, I don't know if I'm enjoying this as much. But then when you find out, you know, the relationship doesn't really blossom, and the reason being is because Jason dies the next day. I thought it was a really interesting twist. I want to know where the story goes. They all kind of feel a little disconnected right now, because obviously you had the little girl in the first issue, and now you're focusing on this Wonder Girl. So I'm curious how it all comes together, but I thought that was a cool ending, and it made the story kind of all come together, at least for this one issue. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Uncanny Valley, issue 10. It's the finale of this series, which was fun. It was a very action-heavy book where you learn about the main character's dad a little bit. That wasn't mostly the point. It really is just like all these cartoon characters coming to defeat the villain. There's not much else that happens in this issue, but I feel like it keeps an open door for the future and definitely to tell more stories. So I liked it. I thought it was fun, but it wasn't as mind-blowing as what I would want maybe from a finale. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Marvel Swimsuit Special, issue 1. I was pleasantly surprised by this. The reason I picked it up, Tony Fleeks, Tim Seeley, great creative team, and they did a very local man thing where they make a commentary on old comics, which I really appreciate it here, because we've obviously seen swimsuit editions before, but they're not that seen in the industry as often as they used to be. And I thought that was an interesting commentary of like AI creating these swimsuit editions of our favorite heroes, and then Janet's like, all right, let's just make our own and see what culture will think, and everyone just doesn't care that they were dressed up as swimsuit, or dressed in their swimsuits. And I thought that was just fun, a fun way to do this pinup book that is usually just there as a cheesecakey thing. I just thought it was an interesting commentary, and actually a really surprisingly fun book. So overall, giving that one 4 stars, and that is number 4. All right, moving on to number 3, which is the Fantastic Four issue 1. This was a good issue. I was honestly pleasantly surprised because it's the same creative team that did the last volume, which I couldn't really get into. And I thought this was a really good jumping on point where all the Fantastic Four characters are scattered through different time periods. And now it's up to an Invisible Woman who's in the future where the sun is dying and trying to burn people to put everyone together. And I just thought it was a really good way to prompt a new volume. I love Invisible Woman being the leader. I thought this was a very solid issue for me to jump back on to this franchise. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Uncanny X-Men issue 17. This is the new villain coming to town, and as a big slasher fan, I had a really good time with this, where you get to see Gail Simone's love for horror films and kind of like this Megan-esque type character without any of the memes come to the forefront and have this negative propaganda against mutants, and the mutants react to that and how pop culture can be very important and influential. The kids now are dealing with the ramifications of this movie and fighting the actual villain of this movie, who's the actor. And I just thought there was a lot of fun elements that brought a new life to this series, brought a new life to the X-Men franchise, and it's exactly the tone I want for this book, and a good mixture of the old X-Men with the new X-Men. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. All right, moving on to my pick of the week, which is Supergirl issue 3. I love the tone of this book. I really like that it has this modern flair with everything you loved about the Silver Age Supergirl. And things move really quickly, which I like. We get to see the villain from these previous issues who is pretending to be Supergirl. No one likes her. And she uses black kryptonite to turn Supergirl into Satan's Supergirl. But what I like about it is also the balance of, obviously, these two characters going against each other, but then you have Lena in the mix, you have Kara's parents, and then the cliffhanger of the issue is that Kara's parents from Krypton come back and they're like, hey, you're gonna go to jail. So I thought that was really interesting, and it's just a good way to mix all of Supergirl's different storylines here. I'm also really curious to see what's going to happen with Lena and Supergirl. That's the topic of this, where it's like, obviously Lena and Supergirl had a big ship for their television show. Like, are they ever going to get together? And they never did by the end. So I'm curious, is Lena here just because the friendship did really well on the show? Or are they going to try going down that romantic path? I'll say this issue in particular, it seems like they're leaning more towards the friendship side, because they do mention that Lena hasn't really had any friends. So curious to see what that relationship's gonna look like if this series goes on for like another 30 issue, because I could see that relationship kind of developing in a really interesting way, and DC could kind of like rip the carpet under us and be like, hey, see, we finally gave you that relationship in the comics. So very curious to see where that's gonna go, and I think this is a very under the radar series everyone should be picking up. So that's my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. I gave that one 4 stars. Let me know in the comments below what your pick of the week was, and last week's viewer pick of the week was Absolute Green Lantern, and here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.